Patty, what interest rates went up today? And for you to put that in your newsletter to warn everybody and let everybody know, which I believe a couple days ago you were telling everybody, hey, you need a lock. You've been calling the plays like crazy. What happened in the last 24, 48 hours?
Yeah, I mean, what happened is exactly what we expected to happen. The CPI report came in 0.2% higher than expectations. There are lots of expectations across the board from various financial institutions. Inflation is up. Inflation is up for the third month in a row. And
Mm.
so, in the grand scheme of things, the market, I mean, the reaction to the market almost feels just like how are you surprised by this, right? We all knew it was coming. Last week's job report, before the big job report came out on Friday, we had an ADP report. And I think everyone listening would be pretty familiar with what ADP is because it's a massive payroll company. And they work through a big portion of many of the corporations that exist. So it's a great way to measure what's happening in unemployment. And they gave an indication, even the ADP report had new job creations coming in higher than expectations with a significant margin. So that was kind of a prelude to what we knew was going to come on Friday. So I locked all of the loans that I could prior to Friday's report, knowing that there would be a hike. There would be a bump in rates. So what does that mean? That means that if the Fed's job is to cut rates in order to stimulate the economy, but the economy is boasting a lot of brand new jobs being created. No one on this panel we are all entrepreneurs. Every single one of us would not be posting a job opening unless we were earning the revenue to be able to do so. So when there's all these job openings, if you think about it from that perspective, you'll understand that that means the economy is doing well. People are making money. People are spending money. New jobs are being created. It's a sign that inflation is going to continue to rise because as people are working and earning, they'll continue to spend money and demand for goods and services remains high. So the Federal Reserve is looking for weakness in the economy in the labor sector. And also they're looking to see inflation numbers go in the other direction, go down. They want it to go closer to 2%. And that's not happening. So jobs continue to get created. The unemployment rate continues to go down. And then we have inflation being really sticky and now on the rise for 3 months in a row. These are the indicators that the Federal Reserve is looking for to have some sort of basis to cut rates. Well, if you take that away from them, what's left? Nothing. So today's CPI report came in hot. It came in higher than usual. And that sends a signal to the market that the Fed can't cut rates. As of yesterday, there was a 56% chance of a rate cut in June. And as of right now, that probability is down to 16%. For some perspective, in January, there was a 90% chance of a rate cut in March. And that went down to 9% by obviously late February. So these expectations is like a big fat crap game on the side of the road, right? It's all a bet. It's a bet on what the Fed will do. And those bets are definitely making a difference in the market and interest rates. So remember, I've said this so many times for anyone who's listening here that's heard me talk about this elsewhere, is that last year when interest rates peaked over 8%, that was because the market was betting that there would be a hike in 2023. So as soon as concerns and fears for a hike were removed off the table, interest rates went from 8.03% down to the mid to low 6% range, sparking massive demand that hit the market, bringing lots of momentum in going into the new year and lots of excitement. So here we are in April. There was a 90% chance of a rate cut in March. That didn't happen. And now the chances of a cut in June are going from 56% down to 16%. And the average 30-year fix went from 6.975% up to 7.34% today. So what happens is the biggest impact is going to be on the psychology of a buyer who's in the market right now, worried about paying a buyer's agent, worried about higher costs, and worried about inflation. So it's really not good news for the real estate industry. It's not good news for the American people because they need to get control of prices. People in general have a different sentiment than what is being presented through the administration currently and what's being kind of promoted as Bidenomics. Hey, the economy's growing, inflation is going down. I did this, I did that. The truth is, inflation has not improved since the Biden administration has been in office, and money printing is the number one source of inflation. So, something I'd like to point out, and what leads to moments like this, is that over $5 trillion was printed out of thin air and pumped into the economy during COVID. Right? So now they're trying to reel that back in, and the tightening that they've done has been to the tune of $1.5 trillion. So if I put $5 trillion into the economy and I slowly take back 1.5 trillion, that's really not enough to put a dent in inflation, and they know that. So right now we're all basically just spectators in a big show that we really don't know what's going on behind the scenes for. So my advice to the people listening is that if you're looking to purchase a home, the fact remains that real estate is an asset that has the element of scarcity, and tight lending conditions mean less sellers coming off the rates that they have right now, tighter inventory, and more stable values. The best thing that can happen for interest rates today is the idea of a recession entering back into the conversation and having actual legitimate facts to get there, because that would drive rates down, add more inventory, and help pick up activity in real estate. So I don't want you to be afraid of those terms that get tossed around into the news. I also want you to know that if you're looking to buy a house and you can afford to buy a house at a higher interest rate, it's a good idea to do so. It's always a good idea to buy real estate. The best time to buy real estate was yesterday. The best time to buy real estate was 10 years ago. It's just like planting a tree. The best time to do it was back when you should have first thought about it, right? So buying a house is not an issue. Affordability is a major concern, and it's not a new concern, because the cost of homes have continuously gone up since the early 1900s. So if you want to buy a house, don't get discouraged, but just make sure that you're buying within your means. And I'd like to highlight that if you are looking at any data and statistics that is reiterating the fact that home prices are going down, I want you to understand that that data is relative to new builds. And it's not because the home prices are going down. It's because more buyers are gravitating towards smaller and lower priced homes, driving the average price down when they're doing the math on what's being sold. You have to understand the details of those headlines. So home prices are not only stable, but in many markets continue to rise because demand is high in comparison to supply. And this particular situation with rates going not only gets a few buyers onto the sidelines and maybe a fearful reaction, but it also gets sellers off the sidelines and keeps inventory super low. So we have to watch closely. Be super, super vigilant about how you share this information. If you're a real estate professional, don't run with the headlines, because 99% of real estate agents I'm familiar with through social media started out this year by posting that the Federal Reserve promised 6 rate cuts this year. And I was adamantly against that. So I want you to be super careful about the headlines that you share and understand the details. And for more information, you can join me on April 18th on my webinar, The Truth Behind the Headlines, which is at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And we can throw the link in the chat, and that's all I got for you.
I love how Patty never messes with the sensationalism. She's like, all facts. Okay. Let's not play. If you can afford to buy a house, buy a house. Don't let the headlines fool you.